I'm Zark 6. Most just call me the Bug or Warden Bug, given how long I've been here. Far too long, really. Over the years, I've made connections. I supply things, even in this maximum security Zindari penitentiary. The Dro forbid inmates from using universal translators, and only a third speak the common council tongue. But with my dual minds, I've mastered a dozen languages, an advantage that's served me well. Even Dro guards will ask my help to deal with certain inmates. They've got to pay my fee, of course. I'd heard stories about the humans. The apes have a colony out in the fringe, beyond council space. No one knows where. Makes sense. The Dro nearly wiped them out cycles ago. Guess they're not eager for round two. Humans, it's said, operate black markets, manufacture arms, and trade in information, often requesting technology, terraforming equipment, engineering plans, and so on in exchange. They're not building a war machine, they're building a home. Admirable. But that doesn't change the fact that most of the humans sent out are some mean little mammals. This is just what I hear. Pound for pound, humans are supposedly one of the strongest sapiens. But they're clever too. Cutthroat traders and smugglers, quick with a pistol, talented hackers and calculating negotiators, ruthless mercenaries and bounty hunters who track you non-stop. More than a few Xenos in this slam are here because a human dragged them in. So when word got around that a human was being transferred here, the rumors were flying. A pirate, a serial killer, a bounty hunter. That was the most popular one. Lots of Xenos still looking for revenge. Most of us expected a monster of a man, a hulking brute with those tattoos humans were rumored to have. What we got was completely different. She was small and thin with dark skin and long hair. Attractive for a mammal, I'll admit. Bright, inquisitive eyes. If the human was half as useful as their reputation indicated, I could use her help, and she could use protection. I dispatched one of my enforcers to assess her. Gorzak, a sizable Valmir, an apex predator descended from a large fish, with a maw full of serrated teeth. Not the sharpest, but he follows orders well. I had him meet the human in the yard, where I could observe from a distance with my antennae. The human commenced yard time by circling the perimeter, and she kept running and running. It was quite impressive. Most of the other Xenos in the yard were staring or bioluminescing or whatever. Few here could have managed that without rupturing a heart. I motioned for Gorzak to intercept her, as there wasn't much yard time left. Human! Here! Now! Easy, Gorzak, easy. Do we have a problem, big guy? Her voice carried a melodic quality, but I could see her hands clench into fists. No problem. I was just thinking you must be exhausted now. That will make you easier to... Before Gorzak even finished, the human took 2 quick steps, jumped into the air, and smashed one of her small fists into his nose. Thoughts raced through my mind. Her speed was incredible. And after all that running, and she was supposed to be small for a human? Gah! Human, you will pay for... Gorzak dropped to his knees, and the human kicked her leg out, right into his nose again. I expected the human to keep beating him until the Dro intervened. It was a simple way to establish dominance. Human prisons likely had similar rules. Instead, the human calmly put her hand on Gorzak's shoulder and started talking. Hey, you're all right, big guy. What's your name? The human was practically cooing to him like a hatchling. Ruck. Get away from me, human. Gorzak, I'm Afya. I didn't want to hit you, Gorzak. Human, I swear, when this pain fades... She didn't flinch. If anything, she moved closer to his face. Don't do that, Gorzak. Don't say that. And please call me Afya. I'm sorry, it's just that you threatened me. And your kind, the Valmir, right? Look a lot like a big predator we had on Earth called sharks. Humans. Afya, your people were not even the apex predators of your world? Gorzak seemed to be regaining confidence. I hoped he'd stay calm, as I disliked the direction this was heading. That's right. There were many species larger and stronger than us. Well, it's much the same here, really. What do you mean? You see, Gorzak, back on Earth we avoided the apex predators when we could. And when you couldn't, you became their prey. I barely detected a faint smile cross Afya's lips. Sometimes, yes, but most of the time, when we encountered them, we hunted them. A very cool smile. Hunted them? Gorzak's growing confidence gave way to confusion. I truly did not like where this was going. Certainly, early on this was for survival. Some we hunted, others we domesticated to serve us. In later years, we even hunted the predators for sport, always careful not to kill too many, as we wanted them to survive, so we could keep hunting them. Gorzak fell silent, the color draining from his skin. I could feel my own plates shaking in fear. It had been a couple of months since the human, Nyla Jahar, had been brought to the prison I've called home for longer than anyone else. Well, it's not my prison, per se, but I've been here for quite some time. My name is Zark6, though most simply refer to me as the Bug. I'm a V-Shirk, and we live for galactic standard centuries. When one of us breaks the law, the Dro sentence us accordingly. 2 months is nothing for a V-Shirk. As Afia put it, the blink of an eye. I had been concerned that this clever, ruthless human would try to seize control of my little domain during that time. Take what little power I possess in this place. One of the guards had informed me that she was suspected in a dozen smuggling operations and rackets, though the only charge that stuck was her assault of 2 Dro patrolmen, which she had apparently turned herself in for. Afia certainly had the skills to take over, but instead she had come to me seeking work. Indeed, in just those 2 months, she had helped me run the prison more smoothly than Warden Zorux could have ever imagined. Of course, there was a lot more under-the-table dealing than the scaly Dro bastard would tolerate, but I digress. Internal security here is a joke, and Afia knew every major player on a first-name basis. She knew who to approach, who to charm, and who to smooth talk, though most of the time, that last tactic left me unsettled in my plates. A prime example was her handling of Karn, a massive horned Ankol who used to be a regular client of mine until he racked up too much debt. When I had Gorzak attempt to collect, politely I might add, Karn tried to gore him to death with his horns. Gorzak got off lightly, only a couple of standard weeks in the infirmary, but none of my other enforcers would go near Karn. When Afia learned of the debt, she asked that I let her deal with it. It was bad for my reputation, she said, and she was right. Still, Karn likely weighed 10 times what she did, and his horns were half as long as she was tall. Yet she insisted, saying, "None of that matters if he doesn't see me coming." That sent a chill through my plates as I recalled how many times Afia had accidentally snuck up on me, even with my sensitive antenna. Anyhow, she began the collection in the standard way. I observed and listened from my usual spot on the stairs to the yard. She asked Gorzak to accompany her. While he feared Karn's horns, he'd do anything for her. Incredible. Karn was lifting the crude-free weights in the middle of the yard with 3 of his kind, some of his herd. As Afia and Gorzak approached, the herd moved to intercept. Gorzak commenced his typical taunting and threats. "Ah, I see the meat has come to the yard to work out a little." "Good, good. Add some more mass and one of you might make a meal," Gorzak said, baring his dozens of serrated teeth. The Ankole were obviously unsettled, but they were confident as a herd. "Says the Valmir who spent a month in the infirmary due to mere Ankole?" one of the herd retorted sarcastically. 2 weeks. It wasn't so bad. Got to sit on my ass, eat whatever I wanted. You should try it, little one. Fatten you up. Personally, I don't prefer my meat fatty, but the human tells me it can be better that way when you grill it over a flame. Gorzak continued his tirade, and I admired the fishy fellow for it. But wait, the human? Where was Afia? My gaze shifted beyond Gorzak and the herd. Karn was on his back, lifting at the bench press, frozen as Afia stood over him. She was, rather menacingly, flipping a small shiv between her fingers. As Gorzak had distracted the herd, she had slipped past them. I focused to hear their conversation. "Your old friend Zargzix has sent me to collect," she said sweetly, the shiv hovering above Karn's face. "You think that little thing will hurt me, human?" "Ha! Gorzak has a mouthful of those, and all it got him?" He trailed off mid-lift as Afia gently caressed his neck with the makeshift blade. "Shh, shh, 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 shh," she cooed to him. "You know you've got 2 nice fat arteries in your neck? I can feel your pulse beating through them. Why don't you lower that barbell down? It does look heavy." I could see Karn grit his teeth. He was not pleased, but he complied, lowering the bar to the rack. Did I not make myself clear? Lower the bar, all the way down. Afya's voice shifted instantly from a soothing melody to steel harder than the shiv in her hand. "Curse you to the 6 pits." Karn stopped as the blade pressed against his throat, just enough to draw blood. He began lowering the weight to his chest. His eyes frantically scanned the yard. Gorzak was still keeping his herd busy, drawing them further away even, and the guards' attention with them. I could see Karn's desperation growing as he realized it. "So when do you think you'll have those credits for Xarxix?" Afya said, again letting the shiv dance over his throat. Karn's forearms were shaking, trying to keep the weight from crushing his chest. Suddenly, one of his herd turned to see his predicament and began bellowing. Karn saw his opening and threw the weight to one side, bolting upright. Afya slipped away as Karn's herd rushed back to him. "We'll be seeing each other again soon," she called to him in that musical voice. Gorzak thought it was hilarious, especially when he saw Karn trying to conceal the blood-matted fur on his neck. "You actually cut that oversized beast? Ha 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 ha. Afya, you're the true predator here." I wasn't so happy. Karn was big. Karn was pissed. "And scared," Afya told me. "You and I could have a future together, handling things like this. Bug, you need to trust in your subordinates to get things done." That confused me, but made my minds drift as well. It had been a very long time since I'd had subordinates I truly trusted. So I decided to turn Afya loose on Karn. Over the next week, she broke that big Ankoli down into a skittish, paranoid calf. 2 or 3 times a day, whenever he was alone, she'd be there, shiv in hand. Maybe she'd sneak up and jab him with it. She'd catch him in hallways, the yard, on work detail, even in the showers. He'd look away, look back, and there she was, always asking about the debt, always chiming in that musical voice. "We'll be seeing each other again soon." Karn was convinced she was some sort of demon from his 6 pits. Finally, she cornered him in his cell just before lockdown one night. She'd silently slipped past several of his herd guarding him. "I won't pay, human. Go on. Try to kill me." Karn remained defiant, sitting against the rear wall of his cell as Afya stood in the doorway, the dimming light behind her. "The bug doesn't want you dead. He just wants what's his," Afya said softly. "And I don't want you dead either. Not yet anyway. Hunting you has been quite entertaining." "Entertaining? You think this is—" Before Karn could finish, Afya rushed him, sliding under his horns and pressing the shiv to his neck again. "Yes, I do find it entertaining. In fact, I might make a deal with the bug for you. I'll pay off your debt." That cold smile crossed Afya's lips. "Why would you do that?" Karn choked out, the blade pressed hard against his throat. "Because if you don't owe the bug, he won't care what I do with you. I could hunt you every day and kill you once I grow bored." She slowly pulled the shiv up from his throat, holding it in front of his eyes as she backed out of the cell. "We'll do this again soon." Karn collapsed, trembling. "The credits are there in the corner of the mattress. Take them all. Just please, please leave me alone." Afya collected what was owed and strode out. "You disappoint me, Karn. We were just starting to have fun." As Afya would say in that musical tone of hers. "But no!" It only makes the warden, Zorix, suspicious. Xarxix's rackets are a mess, and it's nearly impossible to import anything anymore. The new guard captain Guruk has taken a special interest in Afya, tossing her cell twice a week, even though she's only been in the prison for half a standard year. I couldn't deny that she was at the heart of the warden's newfound paranoia. 2 weeks ago, Guruk brought me to the warden's office to translate something. It turned out to be visitations that Afya had been having with another human woman, Emilia. 3 separate visitations and videos over the past few months. Warden Zorux had heard that I was something of an expert in language. The guards knew I spoke at least 10, if not 20 languages fluently. But what Afya and her visitors spoke on the videos was unlike anything I'd ever heard before. As best I could tell, they used a different human language in each meeting. I could barely even speak the most common human tongue. I informed the warden that, prior to the Drows' police action against them, humanity had spoken hundreds or even thousands of languages regularly. I was of no help. Captain Guruk had threatened to snap off one of my antennae as punishment, but the warden suggested I be confined to my cell for a month or 2 instead, just to ensure I wasn't lying. Afya and Gorzak kept me going during my confinement. Gorzak regaled me with dreams of gnawing the meat off Captain Guruk's cartilage. Afia was more practical, keeping my small business running for me. She also spoke of what we would do once out of prison, setting up trade deals, negotiating bribes, manipulating whole sectors of the galactic black markets. I thought she was just humoring an old Vishurk. "What if you got out tomorrow, Bug? What would you do?" Afia asked, her dark eyes bright and curious. "Tomorrow? I'll be in here for another century or so. When I get out, I'll be old, even by Vishurk standards," I replied, letting my plates rattle dismissively. "What do you understand of my past, Afia? I was confined here long before humanity set foot on its first moon." "That's not long for a Vishurk, is it?" she replied coyly. "The blink of an eye, right?" I let my plates chatter in amusement. The human's kindness has granted me a glimmer of happiness. Almost as soon as the words escaped my mouth, Captain Guruk came blaring over the loudspeaker. "Prisoner Nyla Jahar, report to cell block 2 entrance immediately." Afia rolled her eyes and headed that way. As she did, half a dozen drow guards in full riot gear came through the block entrance, lining up on each side of the gate. Guruk came out last, just as Afia arrived. My cell was 1 floor up, just within sight. I focused my antennae to pick up the conversation, or interrogation. "Prisoner Neela Jahar, you are going to translate what was said in your visitations. Do you comply?" Guruk stated flatly in his guttural tone. "No." Her voice resonated through the hushed block. I could see her hands clench into fists. "Secure the area," Guruk said over his radio. The general return to cell warning sounded. Almost all heeded it. I saw Gorzak on the other side of the block, my level, step out of his cell instead. What in the gods' names was he doing? "Cooperate, and this will go smoothly for you," Guruk said, leaning down almost eye level with her. A painful mistake. Afia's hand shot forward in a blur, and Guruk instantly jumped back howling and thrashing in pain. "My eye! The pit-damned mammal ripped out my eye!" Sure enough, Afia held a bloody white orb in her hand, held it up for the 6 drow guards to see. "Walk out of here while you can." The guards exchanged uneasy glances, looking to their captain. "Kill her!" Guruk bellowed. His guard stiffened. Afia dropped Guruk's eye to the floor and smashed it underfoot. Almost as if on cue, Gorzak dove from the 2nd floor onto one of the guards. He tore into the poor drow bastard's neck and shoulder with his mouth full of teeth as 2 of the guards tried to pull him away. The other 3 went after Afia. The drow guards towered over her, wielding stun batons. The entire cell block echoed with a cacophony of noise. Dozens of species, screaming for drow blood. I found myself joining their cries, not for vengeance, but desperate prayers for their survival. I hadn't prayed in years, but this seemed a fitting time to start again. Afia had proven her deadliness before, but now she swiftly felled 2 of the guards with a flurry of splintering kicks and throws. The sounds of tearing joints and snapping cartilage reached me even over the roar of the cell block. As she pummeled the 3rd guard, Guruk snapped out of his daze and drove his stun baton into her back. Afia crumpled, and Guruk began raining blows upon her, stomping relentlessly. The din started to fade as I looked to Gorzak, hearing his roar, a sound I'd never heard and would never hear again. He'd torn the throat of 1 drow and was fighting the other 2, desperate for something to strike and bite. I faintly heard a guard yell to Guruk, "We need her alive! The warden wants her alive!" Guruk ceased his assault on Afia and turned towards me, his face a bloody mask, before shifting his attention to Gorzak. In a final, desperate lunge, Gorzak threw himself at Guruk, only to be met with a stun baton driven into his side. He convulsed uncontrollably as Guruk held the crackling baton against him, until his eyes went dark.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.